So, guessing you guys are here for swords?
Yes.
And make some noise? Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm with Lonin Swordfighting Shorts Club. So this here's Phil. He's one of my longtime friends. Been doing sword work since like late 2000s. Here's Josh, James, David, Catherine, and Mitchell. So we have a whole bunch of selection of swords we can demo with. Alrighty, so who here has some sort of sword prop? Wooden sword? I'm pretty sure you guys have been to this room. Oh, this looks pretty. I just want to just own it as like a wall hanger piece, right? Anyone ever tried fighting with said sword? Let's see, at least 1, 2, 3. Come on, yeah. Alright, but realistically, not really a great idea, right? To use like a wooden sword or like a prop sword because it can injure people, right? You don't want to injure your friends and such. So this panel is about some of the ways in which you can get into sword fighting. You see a lot of skill, but first and foremost, what do you need for sword fighting, right? You need a partner. You need a good buddy. Sword fighting, you can't sword fight by yourself. You can do forms, but you gotta need someone or something to hit, right? So, first thing about sword fighting, you need a partner. So that's what I have a good friend Phil here for. So, Phil and I have been doing anime conventions since like the late 2000s, and there was a convention in New York that hosted a sword fighting tournament with something like these. Not precisely these guys, but foam swords. The great thing about foam swords, right, is you can hit them relatively hard, and they mostly won't get injured. So it's great for messing around, and especially nowadays we have YouTube where you can look up a lot of tutorials on how to do, get all cuts, you do your footwork, but you realistically need a partner in order to practice with, right? So if you want to get anything out of this, is you want to do sword fighting, get a foam sword, get started. Again, Phil and I have been doing this for a while, and without any formal martial arts experience, you can kind of get started. So I'm just going to help the chase in. These are just going to do 5 exchanges. To kind of just show you, which you can just do kind of after sword fighting. So the rules that we have set is heads are off target because we don't have any head protection for now. You generally don't want to hit people in the balls. So basically, middle of the neck. That's it. So without further ado, let's do 5 passes. Go! So, as you can see, it gets pretty messy. It gets pretty messy, right? And we're pretty wary about not messing each other's head, pretty much. Sometimes, like that very last one, we'll hit each other simultaneously, so this will happen a lot, sword fighting. Alright, so these swords you can find online. They also go by name offers. So a lot of our communities have them. So if you want to practice sword fighting, just literally look up foam swords online, buy them, tell your friends. Probably what you guys are here for are the clank sounds, right? Mr. Lonin, you can come here, just have one extra. Helmet. Mask like this. There's a neck protector here. Don't want to get that in the neck. Nice fencing jacket. Elbow protection. Arm protection. Gloves. And got shin and knee pads and a couple.
We also have padded pants on these ones, which is nice for certain kinds of fencing. You hit the thighs a lot and they turn purple. Pads there is good.
So, yeah, so we have a few weapons here. We have longsword. So we grab cats. Okay, yeah, so I'm guessing everybody here is familiar with katana, right? Cool. I'm just going to use that as a basis. I don't have a katana on me right now.
Weaves!
Can I just borrow it now?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm just going to use that as an analog to katana because it's close enough. So the difference between like a katana and specifically a longsword is longsword has two edges as opposed to katana, which only has one. So long swords, they have two edges. It has this crossguard here, and it has a shield, which is great for sticking your hands. So, Josh, come in. Alright, so you guys want to demonstrate just like the long edge cuts. So long edge means that as we're going to hold that with the sword, kind of that edge that kind of would face your opponent. So now the other side is what we call short edge, or might be easier for you guys to imagine as like the back edge of the shoot. So you can do a few strikes involving the short edge as well. Pretty, so with the long swords, they're different, like, if it's the house long sword, but like, that involves some sort of like cuts with those. And the other thing that's really nice about our steel weapons is they flex when you thrust someone. So that way, if you're hitting someone, nice and protected. Okay, so with sword fighting, we kind of like, you might have seen them just kind of playing around. I mean, they'll are going back and forth. So it's fun. This is going to be a universal concept about distance. So why don't you guys start from the pre-fencing? All right. So from here, both fighters can't really hit each other. And these are like a universal across all the swords that you can see. So if let's say Mitchell picks this up, can't hit Josh. So all this we call pre-fencing. So once you get into the measure where within one step you can hit, and once someone strikes, this is what we call the creep or the war. Basically means that whoever has, Mitch, you want to just throw an attack and Josh parry you. Josh, you want to parry that? Okay, stop. And this is what we call the creep or the war. So here, people can just throw attacks and you basically have to move and just react to whatever someone's throwing at you. So you guys want to set out a measure. From here, Josh, you just basically don't move. Mitchell can just do whatever he wants, and up until he gets close enough to throw that attack, Josh doesn't really have to react. But once Mitchell throws that attack, now Josh has to do something to it. So that is honestly the majority of sword fighting is going to be out of here. Okay. So far, does anyone have any questions? longsword specifically from taking the time out of two-handed weapon. So they have these crossguards. So say Richard does an attack, Josh can just use the crossguard parry. That's parrying the blade. Well, another thing you can do is use it once you parry, can you? Yeah. Yeah, so those are all really useful. And the last thing is it has this little knob at the very end. This is the pommel. So this is a bludgeoning weapon, effectively. So, Richard, if you want to throw an attack over to Josh, and then Josh parry pommel. So yeah, these are really sharp. Like they can break teeth if we were wearing fencing helmets. And even with these helmets, generally would be pretty kind to our opponents. Alright, so yeah, if no one has any questions, I think well, I guess the last thing with posters,
Kevin, look to your right.
yeah.
Isn't there a style of one hand made the other hand?
Yeah, so you can think about the 1400s. So most of the longsword sources are going to be from around like basically like 1300s or maybe early 1400s to like 1500s. But yeah, like there are going to be some techniques involving whether you hold it at the pommel or just both the pommels, going to be personal preference really. Yeah, but we're about to get into some closer fights, which your hand might come up. Yeah, so we see it in a lot of like movies and when people do dialogue and stuff like that. So you guys want to just cut into a strong mind. Right. Yeah, so here, this is where people in movies, they kind of like have their little, you killed my father sort of situation, right? So from here, this is where hands can kind of touch, right? So Richard, you want to do an elbow chuck? Elbow chuck? Yep. Again, pommels are also available here. You can do an arm wrap. Richard, arm wrap. And there's also some wrestling, so Richard, you can just demonstrate a hip throw, just without actually following through it. Okay.
What happens without
This is why we have padded grounds in our gym floor. Yeah, so yeah, that's just in a nutshell how different ranges and plays that you can kind of do with longsword. More technical things in our class. So we have a few folks here. Majority of us do longsword here, so we're just going to have like 2 paths per person, so you can kind of see how each person has their own personality that represents with the longsword. So Josh and Richard, you want to just do 2 passes, and then Captain David can swap in as well. Okay, yeah, someone's up with you. Okay, please, one of you swap in with Richard. Cool, yeah. And let's see, Richard, look at. Thank you. Mr. Knox, knocking away the sword there. Yeah, so you can place your hand on the blade. It is something, not just with long sword, but with a lot of other swords as well. All right, so that is our long sword is probably the most popular weapon in Dima. But we still have a lot of other swords to go through. So, I might pass it over to Josh versus Saber.
Good job.
Hello everybody, thanks for coming out. I'm Josh, this is James, will be helping me with, or maybe I'll help him with demonstrating Saber. Where is my Saber? So, sabers are essentially curved swords, and the origin of a curved sword is debatable, but it is very clear that sabers became the dominant sword fight by the end of the 19th century. In fact, they're still a part of ceremonial uniforms here in the United States and throughout the world. So, there's important parts of the saber. It usually has one edge, so the curved side is the cutting side. I'm gonna do this. Thank you. So the curved side is the cutting side, and it offers some kind of hand protection. So you can see here that my saber has something called a knuckle bow, and offers a small amount of hand protection along the knuckles. And James's saber offers a full backstab. So this is a more expensive but more protective piece of accessory on the sword that allows him to essentially have his entire hand shielded for any cut in any direction. So sometimes there's a sharp one on the back. So when you're throwing cuts with the saber, occasionally you can throw this reverse cut, but usually that's pretty useless. Sorry. Yeah, and so this is considered a cut and thrust weapon, which simply means it's highly effective at using both the points and the edge. It's very strong in both. But what it gives up, or what it gains in nimbleness and versatility, it loses a bit in range for having the same amount of metal. Someone can make their sword straight or thinner, and it will have more length. So that's the trade-off of having a saber. But with this nimbleness, often an officer in the field or some noble person who has learned all sorts of weaponry can have an offhand weapon like a pistol or a buckler or a dagger or anything like that. The way you hold the saber, there's two main grips. There's either a hammer grip, where you just hold it like you're hammering a nail, or a thumb grip, where you hold the thumb on the back of the hilt to offer some control for various maneuvers with your saber. The main blade work that we do with saber is just a series of cuts, thrusts, and parries, and we'll demonstrate some of those right now with each other.
Like not wearing one. Let's do the right thing, yeah?
So obviously you'll probably see cuts and parries before, but there's something special with saber training that we often do called a molinet. And a molinet is a way to circle around your opponent's blade while also generating power into your next cut. This can be done at the wrist, at the elbow, or at the shoulder. And we can demonstrate some of these.
than me. I can't really do it from there. Yeah. We didn't get to go over this before we did this. So we're kind of like, how do we actually demonstrate that?
It's a lot easier when we're actually fighting. Which
So,
we'll get to.
actually, if you come to guard. So, if Josh is a forward guard, something that I can do with the Molinet to get that sword out of the way. Because if I just come in to cut him, he's probably going to put his sword in the way, or I'm going to throw myself on his sword, which as a gentleman of the army is a bad way to die. I have lands, obviously I need to take care of. And why would I want to sacrifice my good, right, noble blood on that guy's sword? Gross. No, I want to keep that all on the inside. I need to keep my insides lubricated. So one thing that I can do is I can do a small Molinet of the wrist to get his sword out of the way. That's really where most of the Molinets come in. When you can, if you come from a really far distance out, this is when you can kind of start doing this kind of stuff. And then it's like, well, I don't really care where his saber is. It's not going to be there by the time I hit him. It's going to get out of the way. And so I can be a sword-wielding maniac from out here. And as soon as I kind of come into distance, get that out of the way completely, and then reroute that energy into a cut. Another thing you see a lot in Saber when you do Molinets is from a hanging guard. A hanging guard is a very fancy way of saying that my guard is above me. It's just hanging out up here. And so if Josh wants to come and attack me with a downright blow, I can just take that force and come around and hit him. He gives me all the force that I need to kill him, which is the best kind of redirection of force. It means that I don't have to do any work, actually. Why are you hitting yourself, Josh? Why are you hitting yourself? And so that's really where most Molinets come in. There are these really small, like, disengages that could kind of be considered a Molinet, depending what tradition you come from. Those really small ones we call beats. And that's just to get the saber out of the way. And it's a lot of this stuff is very fine, like, fuck you, or like, fuck you. Or like the really like, fuck you, no, I hate this, go away. And so those are all within the broad world of Molinets, which if you're French just means parade.
Yeah. So the next piece is our footwork, which is actually quite reminiscent of what you may have seen in like modern Olympic fencing. So we often have something like an on-guard. It can be rear-weighted, it can be mid-weighted, front-weighted. Doesn't really matter that much. And for the most part, we have advances, retreats, we can traverse around each other, and a lunge. And unlike Olympic fencing, you're usually not going to see this lunge, because if I miss, I'm pretty screwed. So when we're keeping distance, you generally want to throw a lunge at a position where you can always come back and be defended. And our goal with our footwork is to trick the other person into thinking they're there, but they're not. And that's usually how you can hit them if they can't trade fast enough.
You guys want to just do a few exchanges? One. Let's do four more. Two. Three.
the sword behind the back of his head. I don't think you
Yeah, cards in general. Most of it is it's mostly a forward chamber position. That way, especially this from above.
This card particularly comes out of beauty for Silver's book. George is talking about keeping everything in one line, so no part of me is extended closer to my coming than the other part. So you have to strike at the next distance to do it. Exactly. So he's way up there, and so that's there. That figure's gone, right? But if the sword's up there, all the way back here, I got nothing to hit but his head. So he's got more time to react. So it's buying you time so that you can do something smarter than the other guy.
Sorry,
George is very reserved.
boy, fuck off.
Yeah, see?
He doesn't have to fight me, right? We can just yell at salvation.
Oh, go for it.
Hang on, let me go.
I have two. First was just could you get a demonstration of the sabers and a jab?
Like a thrust from the sabers? Yeah, sure. I mean, like, kind of. Totally. Different sabers work different ways in that way. Jerry, do you want to stab me? Good.
Cool, how do I?
Let's do the one where you use the curve, stab around the thing.
Yes. So you're gonna cut this way.
Yeah. So you can see here he's wound down and made a cool thrust around to hit the kidney kind of zone on there.
This way.
Yeah, and then everyone can see. Like.
Well, really, I wouldn't want to be here.
Yeah,
they
we
got
got
excited, and then I went off prematurely because they got excited.
Do your sabers flex?
They do. They flex a little bit, not as much as the other ones.
And the second question was during just the demonstrations before all gear was on.
Yeah.
I only noticed because you didn't have a glove on your left hand, but you parried by
Yes.
shoving the saber to the back of the saber.
So the question is about moving the saber off on the offhand.
Yeah. So a really cool thing that people forget about swords is that they're not lightsabers. If you touch one, your hand will largely remain intact as long as it's not in a lot of motion. And so, if Mitchell thrusts at me, all I really have to do is get this hand in the way, and I can bat that thrust out of the way. Depending on kind of like what the etiquette is, sometimes like David and I when we were doing rapier, my etiquette is that if I have the line to the face, I'm not going to stab him because it's kind of rude. So you saw him like whip that out of the way. That's a very valid thing to do. You can also do it after a parry. So if Mitchell does, we'll do it this way first. There. If Mitchell does that downward blow and he doesn't move, and I'm just kind of like hanging out, I can just bat that out of the way and hit him. The thing that we don't do as often is grab, at least in single-handed sword forms, is grabbing the edge. I can bat that out of the way and hit him. The thing that we don't like to do with single-handed swords all that much, one, because rapiers are very bendy and you can actually like fuck up their bendiness. With other swords, it's not as big of a deal, but it's more of a hand safety thing. The thing that we don't like to do is grab. Because then all Mitchell has to do is move his hand around, and that's gonna not be great, even with a glove on. If we are gonna grab the sword with a single-handed sword, what I want to do is I'll take the same attack, step in, and I want his hand, or the fort, the strong of his blade. Because then I can do cool things like grab it, I can stuff it, so even if he tries to go back, I can keep coming in and cut his arm off or whatever. Swords are not lightsabers. Even, we get all these accounts of people like getting cut in half or losing limbs. We have those written down because they're cool. Everyone's like, wow, that guy got cut in half. Wow, he was using a really small sword. Yeah, well, he was on a horse. Like, oh, okay, that's why he cut the other guy in half. Yeah, because he was on a horse.
Did it happen all the time? We wouldn't hear about it.
Yeah.
Sort of related to that, do you have different swords for mounted versus like standing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, historically for sabers, if you're using a saber mounted, it's going to be longer. And actually, up until like the early modern period, it was really common. And even into like the late 19th century, it was really common for European cavalry and also a lot of like East Asian counterparts. Not quite China, they were doing different things, but like India. They had a big tradition of like you're going to carry more than one sword on horseback because if you get dishorsed, if you get taken off your horse, you want a different saber for fighting on foot than you want for fighting from a horse. The ones fighting from a horse tend to be longer. They're not quite as curved. The poles also are really well known for this. They're the sabers that they used from horseback, which, believe it or not, they actually didn't use sabers from horseback all that often because they like to take fuck off lances. They want you to be over there and stab them. And so their swords from horseback were straight, single edge, primarily for thrusting, and it's also something that they could just let go. And then they would use their saber, which was primarily for use on foot. Or if like I'm on horseback and Mitchell's on horseback, and we're like right here and our horses are like fighting each other too, I want the curved thing. I don't want the straight thing. But if we're over here, I want the straight thing and not the curved thing. And that doesn't really get into like the differences between preferences of the cut versus the thrust. That's a whole other thing you have to find me afterwards.
We do love talking about this. I'm going to ask usually we can throw the stuff that we want to get through.
Oh, yeah.
Hold questions at the end. We have a pretty long half-hour question and answer session after that. We're going to have to answer all of the questions you got. And then, like, if you see any of us around, we also will just talk about this all day. So it's really easy to get us to talk. Don't worry. Cool. Yeah. We're gonna move on. Sweet. So it's my turn next too. That's great. We're gonna talk about sword and buckler. What's a sword? You know what a sword is. We've been talking about it all day. This is a sword. We're gonna talk primarily about this guy. This is an arming sword. We're going way back in time. We were sitting around in the 17th century. We're gonna go all the way back to like the 12th century. So the stuff we're gonna talk about today comes from the like early medieval period. Specifically out of the book that we're gonna call the Tower Effect book, or Effect Book 1. This is a book that shows a priest and some dudes doing sword and buckler techniques. It's rad. There's also a lady in the back called Walpurgis, who's like a saint, and she gets her own like couple pages, which is just fun. What's a buckler? A buckler's a little shield. So like this is the coolest one. This one comes out of a book by a dude named Talhofer in Germany. But most of the ones that we end up using look kind of like this. Like why is a little baby shield? It's really easy to carry around. Sword and buckler is something you see used a lot by civilians or like people who don't have as much money for stuff on the battlefield. So they get little baby shields that are easy to carry around. They get way smaller than this too. So we brought one little tiny baby buckler like this. This would be really easy to keep around, and it still doesn't offer you a lot of extra protection because again, back in the day, not a lot to protect your hand. We were just looking at all these baskets and stuff. Those are great, but we didn't have the tech for that back then. We were stuck a little farther back on that. Those swords, though, often use bucklers like this, which are extra big, nice and satellite-dish shaped as rapier points, and they have these big old spikes on the front, which are great for parrying stuff, but you can also stab people in the face. This is great.
Oh no!
So, Kat and I are going to do a couple of demos of some techniques from Effect Book 1. It's a really interesting system, and it shows off some of the unique characteristics of sword and buckler. And then we're going to show off some stuff from a little bit of a later period, and then we're going to fight a little bit. Don't worry about holding, I'm going to yell from here on out. All right, so I'm going to pick up a buckler here. I'm going to put something on my offhand so that I don't accidentally get my fingers chopped off, because you never know, right? Sword, like James said, swords aren't lightsabers and these ones are sharp, but miracles happen. So one thing that's unique about sword and buckler is you have this thing that you can use to stop the sword from cutting you, aside from the sword, which is rad. We also have a kind of a particular stance, at least in Effect Book 1. I'm trying really hard not to call it its old name. They've changed the names on me because they're jerks. Anyway, so we will often stand really extended with the body sucked back and the legs sucked back. We also will keep the buckler and the sword really close together. This kind of mimics the baskets that we see later on, but with a way less effort and metal. These were also often not made entirely of metal. They were wood with metal bosses. That's this bump in the middle. So something we might see here. There'll be another reason to keep the legs back. Defend from the sword and trying to cut legs because of the buckler. This is something that's harder to do with other weapons, or other weapon sets, I should say. But with Kat's legs all retracted, it's pretty tough for me to get back there, right? Then, why is the body sucked back? Because we often see this thing that they call a dirt treader, treading through, where we come up and try to cut lower the body. And if your body's sucked back, Kat sometimes doesn't even have to move for me not to hit, which is rad. It's really, really useful. It is kind of uncomfortable to stand in, and it makes your arms really tired. So like you've got some trade-offs there, but work hard, get strong, and then you can do it all day.
I'll also say, if you're not in danger, you can sit back like
yeah, then you hang out like this, and then you're getting close and boom, boom, boom. Those are the ranges that Kevin was talking about before. Another thing, so some of the stuff that we see in Effect Book 1, we might see, what are the things we do? Right, so if Kat's sword's out there too, one thing that book really recommends is binding on that sword so it can't go anywhere. This way I can bind in, use my buckler to cover stuff,
and then I've got things to do. This makes sword and buckler really hard to judge in a tournament context, but it often makes you a lot safer. You can do this from lots of different angles, cutting off and moving in all kinds of ways. Another thing you might do is the sword and buckler are stuck together like this, so they tell us about ways of splitting them apart. If I cut it in kind of a curving motion, I can split these apart to add a thrust or to cut to arms and stuff like that. Anyway, it's pretty easy to defend against if you see it coming. You just squish your shit close together and it's all good. It's all good. Woo, scary. Some other things we do though, you notice that we've already gotten very close. Shorter weapons, my hands are glued together, so we often end up smooshing in real close. And that's where you can like punch stuff with the buckler. So if I manage to bind this over here, I can just come in straight there. Best comes at the edge instead of the boss. Smaller contact area, more better punches. Also though, now we're in wrestling range again. So a thing that we see a lot is we'll see a cat push it, like cut in here, cat pushes down on that sword out of the way. This is where that arm wrap comes back in. And obviously, unlike with the longsword, it's already free and I'm already ready to cut. We can also move from here into a variety of throws, especially if I end up wrapping with my sword arm, which happens. So if my buckler is kind of tangled up and it's hard to reach, we might turn it here and then we can pop it in throw, put people on the floor. It's really, really fun. This is some of the stuff that we see in Spec Book 1, but we're going to let Kat go ahead and talk about another dude named LeCoultre, who had some other ideas, and it's from farther in the future, I think like 100 years or so farther down the line, right?
Yeah. So, correction, it's Lignitzer.
Lignitzer! I always mix those two up.
As a practitioner of both sword and buckler and longsword, I really like Lignitzer as it comes from the German KDF tradition of longsword. And it gives us a little bit of a bridge between the two systems when a series of combos that you can use to overwhelm your opponent and look really badass while you're doing it. So, if Mitchell is in a point forward position, one of the potential options for me is try to come into that thrust. If Mitchell were to try to carry that shoulder thrust, I already have another option of taking his leg as I exit. So this is just a way of showing like you have multiple attacks planned as you are going in, and that makes all of your options available. Something that you can easily flow into naturally.
And you can see how she's using that to draw my sword way over here so it's out of the way so she can come around and cut without getting cut. It's pretty cool stuff.
The other fun things you can do with Lignitzer are a little bit of a deception, where as I have this buckler in my hand, I can conceal the fact that I have taken both the sword and the buckler in one hand and come in with a nice half sword. And go in there. I cannot see this, I'll go ahead and follow you guys.
So sword and buckler is really fun. It's really versatile. It takes a lot of brain. The buckler stuck around for a really long time. We see bucklers with back swords. We see bucklers with rapiers later on. They're just a lot of fun. You want to do a couple passes and we'll go ahead?
Let's go for it.
Also, note Kat's buckler's all spiky. It really allows you to like hook people's arms and swords. It's pretty cool. I hadn't gotten to play with that one much until today, but it's pretty rad.
You want to play with this one?
What's that?
You want to play with this one?
No, it's fine. Let's go. Nice. One more pass. I got me.
Thank you. Especially as a tourney judge, it can get really confusing because a lot of moving parts. With two swords, usually it's like, okay, it's coming from this angle, that's coming from that angle. A lot of stuff is obstructed with sword and buckler, so definitely requires a lot of skill to both perform and to judge. Thank you once again. And we'll have now David and Mitchell on rapier.
Hey everybody, my name is David, here to talk about rapier. You all have probably seen a weapon like this before. It's long and thin, mine's bent a little bit because I stabbed somebody. But these are the weapons as battlers got better. We moved into making them longer and thinner and better for stabbing. This is like every other weapon you've seen here today, a cut thrust weapon. You can cut with it, it does cut, it works totally fine. Boom, I cut it. You probably draw a little bit more, but that's fine, you can still cut. You do want to thrust these guys though. So this is a weapon not really on the battlefield of war, types are OP, this isn't great, swords, sidearms, so on and so forth. But you know, going around town, you can wear it on your hip, it was very fashionable, it was in vogue, it was very cool as cat. And it usually used for dueling. Maybe you duel sort of death, maybe you duel someone gets up, maybe you walk in the forest and then one guy comes back and then the conversation's over. But weapons we use like this, we think of Olympic fencing. This is probably traditionally what you see. It's long and pointy, and made foil saber, that kind of stuff. Closest to saber, we hit everybody, we can't fuck with these guys. So this is a weapon that we use a lot in the field, and I'll show you a couple of ways you can use it. There's a couple of ways you can use a rapier. You can stand here, keep it really far away, like James was doing earlier. This is like, oh, I've got math on my side. What are you going to do? You can hit me. That thing, you can go really low to the ground and inside. So you can hit this game and like try to get an angle and you're trying for a lunge. You can do a hold out one like this. You can play this kind of game. So rapier fighting is a little different from the other kind of fighting we do. We do like to be kind of close to a bind with the tips touching, as it were. But the whole goal here is we're trying to move around and find a position that's mathematically best for us. And once I have this, then I can lunge, and then I'm in there and I get stabbed. That's most of what we're doing with rapier. So it's really fun to do. Yeah, it's just a really cool, fun time. But like the sword and board we saw earlier, we have it offhand free. Sometimes we use a buckler, but usually we use other items.
The most common one that you'll see is a parrying dagger. Look at this. It's basically a small sword itself. This is used mainly to protect yourself if somebody's trying to stab you. So if we have it here like this, you can have it high, you can have it low, all kinds of things. If Mitchell tries to stab me with this thing, I can carry it around if I was good, and then I can stab him. Of course, he has a parrying dagger too, so often we have this game back and forth. We parry, thrust, parry, thrust. So he'll try again. Parry again, I'll thrust him. Oh no, so we kind of have to like pull back and then do it again. Oh, and this again, and parries. So as before, this kind of game where we're out here with one hand, it's like it's an elegant dance of math and depth and lunging. With this, it's just a big old brawl. We're trying to get a sword out of the way and stab them. So they're out, stab me. Oh no. So like, that's a really fun thing to do. Another thing, as you noted to earlier, is we're nobles around town. We look nice. We've got the drip. The team is all about the drip. We have cloaks. You wouldn't be caught dead around town without a cloak. So we only have tournaments for single rapier and rapier dagger, but cloaks look the best. I don't really wear a cloak very often, so here we go. And we're like walking around town. We look really cool. And then you insulted me or said like, you know, some country was better than another country. It's time to fight. We have a cloak, we wrap it around our hand, and then we have this offhand that can do lots of cool things. Like the parrying dagger, it can simply parry a thrust. So if Mr. tries to touch me, I can open this up and stab him back if I don't get stabbed first. Other things you can do is you can hide where the sword is. You're like, where's it coming from? I don't know, it's over here. Something like that. The final cool thing is like you have your wrapped around you, you're protecting yourself, and you're like, oh, what's that? What? And Mitchell's very good, so yeah, I've got the parry off already. So this is another awesome offhand. One of the best offhand that you always have with you though is your hand. As mentioned before with sabering, you can offhand parry. These things, they're great at thrusting, but if pressure is applied the opposite way, it doesn't matter at all. So down here, we have a thrust. We can try that again. I'll actually do it right this time here, and then a lunge. As mentioned before, you lunge with these things. That's the classic move to do. You score at 90-degree angles. A lunge isn't like a hoo-ah. That's great. But if he dodges or deflects, I'm just dead to rights here. Yeah, so it works. So we have a lunge. This is kind of like here. So I'm looking for this angle. We're playing around here, doing this thing. Like, oh, I got it. Okay, here we go. Great. But of course, rapier came later than most of these weapons. A lot of these weapons were around for a long time. But a really good offhand weapon is one that you don't even have to engage in swordplay. So we have a little bit of technology with it. We have one plate that says you use some pistol battles, and that way you don't have to worry about getting stabbed. Thank you. So this is a rapier, and I think we're going to do a couple real passes at speed for your viewing pleasure, and we can see if I can not get stabbed.
Yeah, as David gets ready for that, just a note on that very last thing. The Nerf gun is not allowed in tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Waiting for the rapier gun that time.
Gentlemen, you've accused each other of not having Riz. To the death.
Do one more. Come on. Oh wait, there's more.
Oh, wait, there's more. That's crazy. Ah, what a bummer.
By the way, throwing stars is a historical technique.
But it is cool.
I was taking your one, sir.
You should have stabbed him.
Alright, anyone have any questions for Rick here?
No, save them for the end.
No? Alrighty.
Save your questions, put them in a jar.
Okay. Yeah, so the big sword.
Yeah, I'm not tired at all. So, this is called the Montante, or a Zweihander, or a great sword. Maybe even a little bit of a claymore. We call it Montante, as it's from the Iberian Peninsula. So, this was used in warfare. You have a pipeline full of pikes, and you want to kind of bat them away and protect your pipeline too. Is used a little bit as ceremonial stuff, so like, have a fight about to start, you say fight, and all that kind of stuff. Also, bodyguards. So if you are a montanero and you are protecting your ward or somebody, often you'll carry this as your bodyguard to kind of look scary and protect them from all kinds of brigands and stuff that may appear. This particular blade is a flamberge blade. It's curvy, it cuts better. If you're a big, long, straight thing, it won't cut very great. So you have all these curves. And basically, unlike every other weapon here, you cannot really arrest the momentum of a Montante. And that's go with it if you ever watched Berserk or play Final Fantasy VII, Cloud and Guts, all these big weapons. That's what you'll use to fight with. You can attack with this, up and down. You can also attack down and up, everything like this. Attack straight, go back here, ready to go again. You can also use this as a spear, chug a little bit. As mentioned before, these are not venomous lightsabers. You can hold it where it's not sharp. You can use it like a spear, up and down like this, and poke people to death. As a reminder, all of these swords are sidearms except this one, but all swords are dexterity weapons. They are better if you're agile, you can move your light little piece of metal around the opponent. This one, however, has a strength requirement. So to show you that pass off to this guy, Mitchell, who's pretty fast with the sword. See what it really can do.
You have to start like this because all the rules start like this. And then you go, "Whatcha?" And then we can do big throw, big cut. Turn and we can do.
So, weight and momentum is not safe in any capacity, regardless of equipment. So that is mostly for demonstration purposes. There are foam swords that are kind of similar, but even with those, it's kind of a bit iffy. You can also see a lot of these demos in like Ren Fair. A bunch of us will be at the Midsummer Washington right there, yeah. So you can see it knocking away pike formations there, if you guys are interested in that. Yeah. Cool, so that is it for our demos. I guess now we can do the questions. We got a whole half hour, so.
We also have more fights we love to do, like mixed weapon fights, but ask your questions first.
That was like, is there any format for like maybe weapon fights or people can use different weapons rather than just being weapons?
Yeah, so the question about mixed weapons, in tournaments, generally they're going to be symmetrical, except for the buckler or